Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Speech Check. I am Sam,
And I'm Matt.
and this is episode 21.
And today we're going to talk about Fall Guys, the Marvel Avengers content update, and stick around to the end to hear your comments on the question from last episode. Before we talk about what we've been playing, I want to say thank you to Kitty and Sheep, who recently shouted us out. And they've also made an Etsy page. So if you Google Kitty and Sheep, all one word, you should be able to find that with relative ease.
And congratulations to Mr. Coffee, who won our transition competition. So listen to the end to find out the topic he selected for our next episode.
But before we talk about anything that we've just mentioned, Sam, what have you been playing?
I have been playing more of A Way Out, which I finished with my friend.
Ooh.
And it thankfully got a lot better. Ironically, when you get past the point of the prison section of the game.
Oh.
I didn't know anything about the plot of the game. I thought it was going to be like this constant attempt and failure that led to like an apex of one grand escape where you finally got out. But it kind of evolved a lot beyond that, really, where you're out in the free world and you're on the run and you're both were screwed over by the same guy, so you have like a mutual interest to get that guy back. And that's where kind of the story evolves. There were some shooting sections that were a little bit janky and clunky, but I wasn't overly offended by them. I thought that it was going to be like a pure Telltale type game where maybe you move the crosshair around the screen and then shoot. But it was like, no, full. There was like a sniping section. You could run around. It didn't, like I said, it was a bit forced in there, but it wasn't as bad that you were like, meh. And it didn't last that long either, so it wasn't too terrible. But overall, my impression of the game improved a lot as it went on. And there's a lot of unusual, tiny little details in like each area that you can interact with that don't really do anything.
Yeah.
They don't push the story forward in any way, but you can just kind of mess about in them. Like there's a bit where one of the guys, his wife goes into labor, so you have to sneak into a hospital.
Okay.
And on the way to the maternity ward, you can both sit in these wheelchairs and then like balance in them.
What?
It's like it doesn't really make any sense, but it's like fun to do, and it's weird, that kind of idiosyncratic stuff that you can do that does absolutely nothing. But you can still see that someone's taken the time to put that in there, so you guess you appreciate it, or at least I appreciate it on that kind of level. But it gives the game back kind of that charm that I thought, I guess, it initially lacked. I don't know if you remember, I described it as Lego without any of the charm.
Yeah.
So it gained that back, but I guess the prison section of that environment was constraining on what you could do, because obviously you are in a prison. So yeah, fair enough. So yeah, if you are thinking to play A Way Out, I would say stick with it past the opening half an hour, and I would actually recommend to play it, whereas I maybe chastised it a little bit in the last episode.
It does surprise me you'd recommend it, because you did not seem enamored with it after the last episode.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't describe it as fun for the first half an hour, but it does pick up, and quite quickly. I also got more into Spider-Man, not loads, but I can say with a pretty good amount of confidence, it's shaping up to be the most enjoyable open world game I've played.
Wow, okay.
And I distinct that from games like Red Dead and Batman that are like more impactful and cinematic, or various other things. But Spider-Man's got like a good size map. It hasn't got a ridiculous amount of collectibles. There's like good fluid combat, and the best thing for me is just kind of webbing around New York and the way you transition. So I'll definitely be playing more of that. I also got a bit retro. Played a few games on the PS2. One of them being a very fun game from my childhood, which is Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, if you've heard of that or played that.
I haven't actually, no.
So it's a pretty simplistic platformer from, I think it came out in 1999. It just kind of, I guess, takes the Looney Tunes license and like molds levels around that. It's kind of like a very simplistic Mario 64, but with nowhere near the intricate level design. But it's a game that I remember fondly because it's from my childhood.
Yeah.
So I'm remembering it better. Yeah, but there's nothing inherently bad about it. And kind of like platformers from that time, you're fighting the camera a fair bit because it's always trying to center itself behind you. And the draw distance is horrible. Played a bit of Crash Bandicoot for about half an hour, and then I thought, wait a minute, what am I doing? This is just torture. So I stopped and started GTA Liberty City Stories.
Ooh, okay.
Which, if you don't know, is a port from the PSP game, or PSP version. And on a PS2, it looks absolutely terrible. Like they've done nothing to. It's literally just a port. They've done nothing to optimize it for that.
Oh man!
So going from like a 9-inch screen to a 50-inch TV doesn't do that game any favors. Yeah, that's the bulk of what I've been playing. Matt, What have you been playing?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked because I wrote them all down in this handy document. I mean,
Ooh,
this is a perfectly natural and unscripted conversation.
yeah, completely ad-libbing.
So you put me onto a game, Neon
I
Abyss,
did.
and it has a demo which suits me down to the ground right now. We're in uncertain times, and I don't want to splash my cash too freely. So I gave it a play, and it played kind of like a combination of Rogue Legacy and Enter the Gungeon, which was intriguing to me. The demo has a fairly decent amount of content as well. You can get about 40 minutes worth of unbroken play before it kind of kicks you back to the main screen. But because it's a roguelike, you can then just jump back in and do that again and kind of have slightly different events. It's truncated because it's a demo, so you don't get all of the scenarios, weapons, items, that kind of stuff. But I was pretty satisfied with that as a free demo. And it's something I'm going to be picking up when it either goes on sale or when I get paid, because it's only about 14 quid. So
it sold you on the demo?
Yeah, the demo definitely sold it to me. Yeah, I'm interested for sure.
Nice. I feel glad that I was able to turn you on to a game that you liked.
Yeah, you read me perfectly.
Ooh.
And side note, Hades just got its 1.0 release, its full release, which adds a whole bunch more levels to the game. So I'm eagerly awaiting that update, and I'm going to play that as soon as it comes out.
I was going to say that's probably going to be on your next what you're playing.
Oh, it's probably going to be the only thing that's going to be on there. If they've added as much content as they would tease him, I'm going to be all over that. Next thing I've been playing was Monster Prom, which is kind of a weird one because I was playing it through Discord. So one of my friends has it, and she had it on her screen and then was sharing her screen because it's like a choose your own adventure game. You don't really need to be controlling it in any way. You just have to kind of say the player one, I suppose. When it's my turn, I'll do this or I'll do that. So we kind of had a fun evening of just kind of messing around, trying to get a date for the Monster Prom. Everyone's playing like different mythical creatures like ghosts and werewolves and stuff. We all decided to like voice each of the characters in the game and the narrator. So that was kind of a fun aside, because we do voices when we do D&D as well, just as a laugh. Like all our characters have voices, and the DMs tend to voice the NPCs as well. So that's a bit of fun. I enjoyed that. It's kind of like an aside. It's like a party game with some light RPG mechanics, like you have stats, but it's not too involved. So that was good fun. And XCOM 2. My friend's been playing an awful lot of XCOM 2 lately, and he kind of triggered my interest in it, or reignited it, I suppose, because I played it a little bit when it first came out, and I'm finding it much less enjoyable than XCOM 1. So I remember really liking the first XCOM and getting really into it. I played it through maybe once or twice, and I just can't seem to get myself into that mindset anymore. Like, I don't know what it is. I just can't seem to engage with the game properly, and it feels a little bit more unfair than XCOM 1. Like, I feel like I'm almost pressured into save scumming sometimes. I'll give a specific example. I was on a rescue the hostages mission, and you know, you have to enter that little white circle around them when they run away.
Yeah.
So hostages on the map. I send a dude over to go and rescue one of them on one turn, so he's like a turn away from them, but next turn I'll be able to get him. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I'll get this, and I've got two other guys like fighting off some aliens over here. Job's a good one. When it goes to the alien's turn, the survivor that I'm trying to save turns into like an 8-foot tall, dripping cum monster.
Oh, not when they get that's those crystals, isn't it? They have like 18 movement, and they can just kill the survivor in one go. Yeah, or they infect them.
I didn't even know what it was. It went straight past another survivor and then killed the guy I'd sent over there in one hit. And I was like, well, okay. Number one, how could I have possibly known that? Like, this mission is now ruined for me, because I've been on like 3 or 4 missions with this guy. He's not crazy high level, but you know, he's getting there. I'm attached to him. Now he's dead. Now I have to load in. And just feeling that pressure to load. Oh, and also, I lost my entire team on the first mission of the game, which is quite embarrassing. I had 2 of them taking cover behind a car, which the aliens blew up, so my bad. Killed them both instantly.
Oh, yeah. It's not a good time.
And then the third one got mind controlled. And as I was running my last guy away, the truck that had the objective on it then exploded and killed him. So, like, 3/4 of my squad were wiped out by exploding vehicles. And I was like, okay, this is going to be one of those kind of games.
God, they weren't putting mind control in from the first mission. They're not messing around.
Yeah.
That doesn't come until, like, the last, maybe quarter of the game in the first game.
Yeah, the whole psionic stuff. You get the sectoids that can, like, boost each other, which isn't too bad. but the spliced sectoids can shoot at you normally, they can mind control you, and they can panic you. They could panic someone and have them take a random action for 2 turns. They just have such a wide tool set. I was like, Jesus, this is a bit much for the first mission. But I've kind of put it down for now, and I thought I'll come back to it when I'm in a better mindset with it, and maybe I can, get on board with it a bit more. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
So that is what we've been playing, and Matt now is going to tell us about the releases. Matt, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sam. First release today is Fall Guys from Mediatonic. This came out the 4th of August 2020, and I'm sure it's no surprise that we're covering it here because it's probably one of the biggest games doing the rounds on social media right now. Like from Twitch streamers, YouTubers, Twitter, it just seems to be everywhere right now. Inescapable.
It is on trend for sure.
So Fall Guys is the first game of this type, kind of party battle royale, if you will, from Mediatonic. The best way I can describe it is kind of like Gang Beasts or Human Fall Flat crossed with Takeshi's Castle crossed with a battle royale is the Cliff Notes summary, I suppose. You take control of a little bean dude and you have to maneuver through obstacle courses or other kinds of challenges with the hopes of being the last one eliminated, aka the last man standing. Players can run, jump, dive, and grab, so you've got a fairly simple set of mechanics. Right now with the minigames, there are 24, and that ranges from running an obstacle course, a fruit matching memory game, and a huge game of tag where you have to snatch the tail off of other players and hope to be one of the last beans wearing a tail or a crown. Some of the games are team-based instead of solo, and that's kind of a blessing and a curse because it can mean that some members of the team can let down the whole team, and that'll mean your entire team is eliminated, which can feel a bit bad. And when the games are things like pushing a ball from one end of a course to the other with various obstacles in the way, and you've got 2 team members who just run straight to the end or something, or just jump off the map, I don't know, do crazy online stuff, that can hurt a bit if it costs you the game.
The curse of the online random.
Yes. Currently, there's no offline or local co-op modes, which seems maybe
that's surprising.
A little bit odd, yeah, because it is it's a game that really thrives in that multiplayer environment, and it's more fun even online played with friends, humiliating each other, pushing people off maps, grabbing people when they're trying to jump, all that kind of fun trolling stuff you can do, and you just can't do that locally, and hopefully we'll see an update with that in the future, but who knows right now, there's no indication. Other notes about the game: the visuals and music are exactly as you expect them to be. They're kind of wacky, over the top, hyper stylized, really high contrast colors. It's going for that sort of tone, and it's quite a kid-friendly game. There's no killing, no guns, no maiming. You just kind of play through to the end. So it's unique, in my opinion, in the way that its gameplay functions and also its presentation. It is quite a unique game. Yeah, I'd say this is one anyone I'm talking to probably knows what I'm talking about right now. But if you're into a game that is focused around playing with friends, because that's where it's enjoyed best, I think. So grab some friends, get online, play it together. You'll probably have a laugh. I think it's a worthwhile game to look at.
Is it free?
It is not. It's premium. But there's in-game content, but you earn kudos, I think they call them, for completing things or like getting to a certain point in each one of the rounds. So you can buy like little skins, little hats, that kind of stuff, the standard fare.
I've seen a lot of skins doing their rounds. Like people have been mocking up their own. I've seen like a Solid Snake and a Colonel Sanders.
Okay. It sounds like they've got a fair amount of customization in there as well. So the next game is Total War Saga Troy. This is coming from Creative Assembly, released the 13th of August 2020. Creative Assembly have a long history with the Total War series, so they kind of don't really need any introduction. From what I can see of the game, it has a slightly more surrealist tone, very slightly, because the Total War games usually focus on historical accuracy, but this is based on the events of the Iliad. So they've kind of embraced that, and things like the fog of war, where you can't see outside of the bounds of your empire. That's like a map, like an old style map that like burns away, and the look of the soldiers is slightly more cartoonish. I don't want to say cartoonish, but I think just stylized is the best way to put it. They've focused on the historical accuracy with things like the buildings and the armor and the inclusion of mythological units. So you might be able to buy a set of centaur, but they're actually really skilled men on horses. So it's, they're kind of putting a realism bent on the events of the Homeric epics, which is interesting. I think it's quite an interesting dichotomy, I suppose, or that juxtaposition of the factual with the fictional. It has your standard set of victory conditions for a Total War game, but they've also added Homeric victories, which is for a hero that performs all of the actions that they would have done in the Iliad. So you can kind of follow that hero's storyline, and if you do it correctly, then you win a Homeric victory. And speaking of the heroes, you've got heroes like Hector and Achilles, your classic Homeric heroes making an appearance and having probably recognizable abilities. The battle maps are a lot smaller than in previous games, but that's because of a reduction in ranged units. So it's a lot more about skirmish units, but they all seem pretty well designed and like they offer good gameplay opportunities. I think this game is probably a pickup for anyone who likes Total War, but I don't know if it would push you onto the series. You know what I mean? I think it's a good game for people who enjoy it, and if you have an interest in mythology, it might be an interesting way to interact with the battles of Troy.
I saw something that said, I'm pretty sure it was in the first 24 hours, it got over 1 million downloads or something crazy like that.
Wow, popular.
People went off on it, yeah.
Yeah, doing well. Last game I'm going to cover is a bit of a smaller one. This is Scully from Modus Games, coming out the 4th of August 2020. Modus are known for developing the Trine series and the Rock of Ages, and those games have been well received. This is a bit of a different take, as it's a stylized puzzle platformer where you begin as a small skull that has been reanimated and is rolling around an island which is controlled by different battling gods of the elements. So Scully can roll around the island kind of like Marble Madness style, like you roll, you jump, you can cling to ivied walls. Essentially a platformer / collectathon. You're picking up leaves and you're just going around. The interest comes in the fact that Scully can create golems in different ponds, clay pools, I think they call them. And these golems can perform different activities in the environment. So there's a strong golem that can punch through walls and throw Scully's head across a gap, so you can kind of depossess him and make a distant jump. There's a fast golem that can sprint and cover large gaps. And there's a double jumping golem, like an air elemental golem. And the latter two can also possess floating platforms and move them into position. For example, you could have a golem raise a platform up, then you jump out into the double jump golem, and then you jump onto that platform and get over the obstacle. That's how they kind of set up their puzzles. And the golems that you can possess, they will keep doing their abilities while you're not in them. So you kind of you don't program them so much, but you can have them do something, then jump out, and then have another one do something else. And I think that's where the complexity comes in, when you've got all three golems on screen and they're each doing a different thing, or you're reliant on their specific abilities to get over a certain obstacle. I think this game looks fairly interesting. It's quite short. The visual style is low fidelity, let's call it. So, it's not hyper realism or anything. And it seems like a fun little aside. If you're into puzzle platformers, I definitely recommend it. And that is it. My releases, a bit of a quicker one, just covering those key points. You know how I do?
I do. And thank you, Matt. I'm informed as always.
No worries. Now that I'm finished with my romp through the releases, Sam is going to set sail on the seas of intellect and show us the way, Sam. Show us what's going on in the news.
I don't think we should call it intellect. That's giving me way too much credit. But yeah, the news for this week is my first item being that there was a study conducted from the National Literacy Trust that suggests that video games could improve child literacy, which sounds like a good thing. It was conducted in the UK, and it was also linked to a campaign from the Association of UK Interactive Entertainment, and it says that more than 4,500 11 to 16-year-olds were asked about the ways in which games and literacy engagement might be linked. I'm going to stress the might. But there was a number of findings from the survey in a variety of areas. Apparently, 79% of people surveyed said that they read content relating to the games they played, which includes both in-game text, so things like tutorials, subtitles, signs in games, that kind of stuff, and information from external sources about those games. So websites, reviews, forums, subreddits, magazines, yada, yada, yada. There's also a creative output that comes along with this, as over 60%, 62.5 to be exact, of respondents said that they also wrote material relating to those games in some form of like fan fiction or blogging about it or making walkthroughs or guides and stuff like that. And some of them even like scripts for like little films and projects and stuff, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
3 in 4 people, or young people specifically, talk to their friends about video games, compared with only 3 in 10 who discuss books. And young people said that playing video games helps them to build social connections both in real life and online. All, I think, fairly positive statistics, if they're to at least take it at face value. And while I think this information is like good and promising, I think it's important to note that this was conducted in a fairly short space of time. It was done from November of last year to December of last year, and the sample size was fairly small. Like I said, only 4,500 people or thereabouts. So take it with a pinch of salt, but I'm all for studies that make video games sound good, or to invest more time, money, effort into not necessarily just positive video game studies, but studies in and around video games to see what they actually do, how they benefit people, or how they might not benefit people. I personally would like to think they do, and I think that they do. I've definitely taken, or feel like I've taken positive stuff in video games, but I don't think that evidence exists in a scientific form as of yet.
No, yeah, like you said, it's good to see an investigation into video games that isn't surrounding how they're terrible, make you into some crazy neckbeard, or encourage you to murder your classmates or something. You know, they're not that. They are a force in society and a new form of media. So yeah, it's good to see that people are investigating them seriously.
Yeah, I do think that when you hear about terrible tragedies, even like, you know, terrible things like school shootings, it's often cited that they played GTA for an hour a day. This is obviously the root cause of them being a psychopath or doing this terrible thing, when it's often not that at all. That's like saying, they wore Nike trainers, so Nike is obviously to blame.
Correlation, not causation.
Exactly. My second bit of news is that the Marvel Avengers game is going to be getting content related to internet service providers. Ooh. This was an interesting one for me. After a long period of like slowly eking out details, trailers, images, gameplay showcases, and also the recent announcement of the PlayStation exclusive hero being Spider-Man, which makes sense because he's exclusive to PS4. More leaked details about the Avengers game suggest that some cosmetic items in the game are going to relate to which internet service provider you're with. Now, I've not heard of anything like this before, so it piqued my interest for sure. But images on the subreddit show photos from companies like Verizon and Virgin Media, and show like company-specific outfits for people like Thor and good old Captain America.
Oof, my man.
I was going to say, he is your boy. I'm more of an Iron Man, which it was a heated debate when we went to watch Civil War, if I remember right.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, you were like,
we almost had our own.
How dare you?
Right there in the cinema.
We did. Although we sat right at the front, so my neck was killing. But back to the news. Nobody official has actually made a comment on this, being the developers who... Do you know what? I don't actually know who develops Avengers. I don't know if you, Matt, do off the top of your head. There you go. But yeah, or them, or any of the internet companies that have been listed haven't made any kind of passing comment on this to confirm or deny. Although Virgin are officially partnered with the game and announced that back in, I think, January of this year. So there might be some legitimacy to it. Now, like I said, I've not heard of a promotion or content in this kind of vein. I understand it to a degree, and I don't think it's going to be the push that people have to, you know what, I'm going to change from BT to Virgin because I want Blue Iron Man.
Yeah.
But I do have a question to pose to you, Matt.
Oh, okay. All ears.
Is the notion of platform exclusivity a good tactic to pursue in any kind of sense, whether a business or a creative sense?
When you say platform exclusivity, do you mean exclusive first-party titles, or do you mean specifically relating to the ISP that we've got here?
Generally games. I've not heard of... This is the first I've kind of heard of this kind of exclusivity outside of the platform, or like things like pre-orders. I guess, does having Spider-Man just on PS4, does that make sense from a business and or creative point of view, or is it just you can't have this because PlayStation paid more money for it?
I mean, in my opinion, I think it's a smart tactic if you've got decent first-party titles, and I think the PS4 is probably the poster boy for that because their exclusives were absolutely great. God of War, Spider-Man, Last of Us, Horizon, which I know now is no longer PlayStation specific.
But it was for the majority of the console's lifetime, yeah. PlayStation exclusive definitely blew the Xbox One out of the water in this generation.
Yeah.
And if you subscribe to the console wars, not that I think that's a particularly good avenue to take, but if you do, when you reel off that list that you just did for PlayStation exclusives, Microsoft kind of hasn't really got an answer back. They've got some, but they just don't. They pale in comparison.
Just a good way to add a bit of demand to your console to not only say that we're more technically superior, but we also have better games. You know, we're better in just more ways. I think it can work if you've got the backing for it, and Nintendo does it. You know, nobody can mess with Mario.
Exactly, yeah, and for good reason. My final bit is that Shroud and Dr. Disrespect have made their returns. Now that Mixer has shut down its virtual doors, which we also covered in detail in our interview with Just Jeffs, which you should go and check out as soon as you finish listening to this.
Yes, you should queue it up right now.
The former Twitch super streamers Shroud and Dr. Disrespect have moved back to streaming, but on 2 different platforms. So Shroud's back on Twitch with an exclusive contract, and Dr. Disrespect did a YouTube stream. And now he hasn't made that his official home, but I'll get onto that in a second. Shroud hasn't yet scheduled, as far as I know, at the time of doing this podcast. He hasn't scheduled his first stream, but it's apparently coming soon, whatever that might mean. And on the other side of the coin, you've got the, I think, still banned Twitch streamer, Dr. Disrespect. He's now resumed his regularly scheduled programming on YouTube. He announced a stream, and he left his channel live for a whole day, I think, beforehand. And he started his Champions Club, which was apparently the name for his Twitch subs.
Mm-hmm.
So he started that on YouTube. And he left it open so you could join by paying, obviously. I think it was a $5 membership. And he announced during that first stream that he had the Champions Club then had over 15 million members.
God.
But apparently it's a common thing for him for the character of Dr. Disrespect to sub the word millions with the word thousands.
Oh.
That number is probably greatly inflated, so it's probably actually around 15,000, which is still a hell of a lot of money. 15,000 times 5
is many.
Yeah, fucking more money than I got. But within the first half an hour of a stream, he was rocking over 500,000 concurrent viewers. That did slowly kind of peter out as the stream went on. I imagine people popped in to see if he was going to disclose details of why he got banned. They were probably looking to see if they could get any juicy stuff from the beginning of his stream, to see if it was kind of some announcement or explanation. For those hoping for an explanation, there was a quote related to it. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I think it was in character and it was quite long.
Okay.
But the gist of it is that the Doctor and his team still don't really know why they were banned, which seemed kind of unusual. I think the weird thing around this is that Amazon/Twitch seems to have taken like very stringent measures to stop whatever this reason is to not be public knowledge.
Oh.
From what I understand, when you do get banned on Twitch, it's normally you get a kind of like on YouTube, I guess you get an email or some kind of statement saying this is what you did. If you do this again, you're gonna get permanent ban, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. It's in writing, and you get told you did this, do not do this again.
Yeah,
fair enough. But apparently that hasn't been communicated to him, and apparently like only the tippity top people are in the know about as to why. I mean, and they've been vocal about why they've banned high-profile accounts and like some of the big earners before. I can't quite piece together why it's so hush-hush. I mean, I know he's not a huge streamer, and he's not in the same group. But they banned, as we covered before, Donald Trump's channel, and it was said why. And they made a full statement, came out about it, and were like, we won't tolerate any kind of violently insightful speech or any kind of hate speech or anything like that. They like stood the ground and like, yeah, no, we're not taking this. So why they've taken such a secretive route on this one, it makes you think, just makes you ask that question, what have you got to hide,
Certainly curious.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to know. I'm not personally too invested in the Twitch, YouTube drama stuff, but Amazon and Twitch, they're very much a public-facing company with that kind of squeaky clean image, or wanting to have that kind of image. It does, it must be something. It's going to probably be something really disappointing and really anticlimactic, but Yeah, I just think this is unusual. It wouldn't surprise me, sorry, if YouTube offered him some sort of deal, but I don't know how much YouTube want to push the streaming part of YouTube as a platform and keep it VOD, or like the gaming portion of the site in general. I know YouTube has like a gaming category, but I don't know how much it pumps that content. Obviously, Twitch, that is the bread and butter. If you know why Dr. Disrespect is banned, comment below. Let us know.
Let us know.
But yeah, that's my news this week. That's all I've got to say for you.
Thank you, Sam. You took us to safe shores of information.
Intellect. That was intellect, right? That was intellect?
Intellect. Yeah, that was intellect.
There you go. So that's all of my intellect spent. I do not have any more for you, but now we're going to move on to the episodic question, which is the free-to-play model the future of gaming? And Matt is going to start us off.
I'm going to start you off with a comment from Mr. Coffee, who at first takes us back to the golden age of gaming with Doom and lets us know that was initially shareware, and then it goes on to say, it's still a viable alternative to the standard purchase model, but if it was going to replace it, I think it would have happened by now. I don't necessarily agree with that. I hear what he's saying. I kind of think we're in the transmutation. I think over the past 3 to 5 years, we've seen more and more games, either free-to-play model or in-game paid content with skins, chests, unlockables, even DLC and season passes, again, not free-to-play, but I think this paid content model is slowly ramping up in its popularity. And it makes sense, I think it makes sense. Companies want to make more on their baseline from last year, and how do you do that? You charge more for the same product, or you get more out of the same product,
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you there, Matt, that we are in the thick of it as we speak. I don't think it's a coincidence that you've seen some of the most popular PvP games like Apex, Fortnite, Warzone, and like a litany of other mobile games, whether that's a loose term to be thrown around to call them games, but they subscribe to that model because it's just almost financially endless, The games that make the most money have like a PvP structure. They've got loot boxes, battle passes, like you said, cosmetic items, some kind of in-game economy. There's no barrier to entry because if you want to download it, it's free, So you open the floodgates to everybody, and then you have 1,000 tiny pieces of content that is spread across all those people. But because they got the game for free, if you have, I don't know, a player base of, I think COD said that they did an announcement that it was like 75 million players or something crazy like that.
God.
If even one of those people buys a £1 skin, that's 75 million pounds just from that. And it's very unlikely they've done that. You're going to get people that are going to buy multiple stuff. You'll get some people that don't buy anything, but I imagine they're very much a minority player. You're going to get something from somebody. Generally, I don't usually go in for that. I try and get it with an in-game economy. But I usually think, right, do you know what? That's the skin I like. I'll buy that skin from a character and a weapon, and I'm done. But, you get some people that are like, do you know what? I'm going to buy everything. My cousins play Fortnite. They buy the Battle Pass pretty much every season, which is what, about 15 quid, something like that? I don't know. Or probably around 10 to 15 quid. And like I said, if you're just mining more from the same product.
Yeah, you've got... I mean, sometimes you do have more content technically with different skins and stuff, but in the case of Fortnite, they can essentially charge for the game over and over and over again, and people will keep paying. And they also break up that traditional lump sum that you would get previously, like a game would cost 40 quid, and you're like, oh god, 40 quid. But now you can play it for free, and you'll slowly trickle money into it. So you might not even realize that you're spending quite a lot in the game. I did it with Team Fortress 2 and Keys. I ended up spending over 200 quid in TF2.
Yeah, exactly. And if someone said, do you want to buy this game for 200 quid? You'd be like, absolutely not. Go away.
Yeah.
So I think it's I don't want to call it sneaky, because I don't think it is. You're very aware of the purchases, as an adult. You're not blind to it. But there's not, I don't think there's any coincidence that, more and more companies, like high-profile companies that release AAA games, have subscribed to this model. That's usually an indication that this is where the money is. That definitely has a place in games. You need a business handle on any kind of art, but you just don't want that to be the overshadow or the overshadowing force that corrupts the art, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to thank Mr. Coffee again for his comment, and also I'd like to congratulate him on winning the transition competition. And his choice for the question that we'll be answering in the next episode is, what dead franchise would we like to see revived? Which I think is a damn good question.
I am frothing at the bit for this. I got a lot of things to say. So
it's going to be a good one.
Thank you, Senior Coffee.
Can't let you do that, Star Fox.
So that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening, as always.
Yeah, thank you for choosing to spend your time here with us. And as per usual, keep your eyeballs peeled for when the next episode's up, and if we do any interviews in the meantime, and when upcoming events are happening.
Yeah, I believe we have an interview lined up. We haven't got a definite date for it. Matt might know a bit more about that.
We don't have a date lined up yet, but yeah, it's coming.
If you like what you heard, feel free to subscribe to the channel, whack the bell to get a notification when we release videos, and like Matt said, check out some of our other content, and feel free to follow us on social media as well. We have a shiny new Instagram now that has photos on it, which I understand is what Instagram is for. I
think so.
And I believe, I'm not sure, but I know that's why I'm putting up there, and no one stopped me yet. So
okay.
And our Facebook as well, where we run similar posts, but that's a bit more interactive.
Yeah, check out the Facebook. That's a much better way to interact with us. And thank you for listening. Take care.
Bye.